Well, hey there, all you cool cats and kittens. This is Joshua Ruiz from Redemption Church coming at you with your daily dose from 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. It says, "Since therefore Christ suffered in the flesh, arm yourselves with the same way of thinking. For whoever has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, so as to live for the rest of the time in the flesh, no longer for human passions, but for the will of God." As I read this passage, I was drawn to this example. I was a wrestler in high school, and the weird thing about wrestling is, as an adult, you can't really do it anymore. So if I asked you if you wanted to wrestle me, you would think me very odd. You would maybe report me to the authorities, but you would definitely say no. And the reason is because what wrestling is at its core is it's a controlled fight, and so how do you prepare for a fight? Here's how you do it. You suffer. You put yourself through, you subject your body through a lot of suffering and a lot of pain, and then some more suffering, and then you see if you can still fight. At least that's what we did in wrestling. Is we would do 3-mile runs just to warm up, and then we'd do sprints, and then more drills and more sprints and more conditioning, and just punish our bodies until we were pretty much dead. And then at the end, we would wrestle each other to see if we could fight. And I had this one coach that was kind of insane. He was different than all the coaches I had in that he would do all the practices with us. It was my senior year. He would run every sprint, every warm up, every push up, everything. Would do it all. And I just remember being so encouraged by him as I would be exhausted, and there was times when I thought I couldn't make it anymore. Like I would say, "Coach, how are you standing? You are like 30 years older than me. I'm a young buck and I'm ready to quit. I'm done. This is too much and I don't know how you're still going." And he would say, "Reese, listen, if I thought about right now, the pain of right now, I would have quit 10 times. But I'm not thinking about right now. I'm thinking about tomorrow and what right now is going to gain me for tomorrow. And if you want to make it, you need to do the same." And I just remember being inspired by and encouraged by the fact that he was going through it as well, but also just that attitude that he had of this focus on the prize. And so I think that's where I wanted to talk through about today is this reality that here's what the passage says: "Therefore Christ has suffered in the flesh, so we should arm ourselves with the same way of thinking." And so just like this good coach, we have a good Christ who came and lived all the things that we've had to endure. He's faced the temptations we've had. He's seen the wicked of this world. He's done good, and it's been construed as bad. He's been misunderstood. He's been lied about. He's wept with people in horrible times. He's seen all the destruction of sin, and he's lived it. And so we can identify with him in that. But then we should adopt his attitude, as it says, or his consenting to suffering in order to gain. This is how Christ lived his life. His path to glory was through suffering, and ours will be exactly the same. And we may not suffer even to the point, of like a persecuted death, but we will suffer in other ways. Every time we deny our flesh, that's a suffering. Anytime that we deny those humanly passions in us, that is us suffering and doing good. And then there's going to be actual other suffering, persecution that could come as well from that. But here's the encouragement we can have. We can look to a good God who came down and did this with us. And then we can also be encouraged by his attitude. Here's why he did it. He did it for this, so that we, again, if we follow in that, we can do this as well. We can have our flesh ceased from sin, that is divorced from sin, and we can live the rest of our lives here no longer for human passions, but for the will of God. Christian, isn't this what we want? We want to be in the will of God. And it's so hard, and yet it's going to come about by us following Jesus into suffering, those denying of the flesh that's not being thrown to and from by our human passions, but to endure and be in the will of God, the way that Christ was. That's how we're going to follow. Guys, I hope this was an encouragement for you. If it was, please send it to somebody. If it wasn't, don't worry. There's another daily dose tomorrow that will be fantastic. But know this, I love you. I'm praying for you guys. We'll see you next time.